A millionaire throws away a box, and a homeless woman finds it, uncovering a secret that changes their lives forever. Before we dive into the story, comment below and let us know which city you're watching from. Enjoy the story. Liam Donovan was starting a new chapter in his life. Determined to leave the past behind, he gathered old memories into a small wooden box. Walking to a quiet street corner, he tossed the box into a dumpster and walked away, as though discarding more than just objects, letting go of memories. Not far behind, Clara watched him. Barefoot, her clothes worn, she held the hands of her twin daughters, Maya and Luna. Her eyes were fixed on the well-dressed man and the box he had just thrown away. It could be food, she thought, her heart racing. Wasting no time, Clara hurried to the dumpster. "Stay right here, girls. Don't move." She lifted the lid quickly and pulled the box out. It was beautiful, heavy, and carried a faint scent of old wood. Feeling a rush of adrenaline, Clara stepped back a few paces and opened it. But instead of food, she found photos. Dozens of photos. And in the middle of them, one made her heart stop. A picture of herself. Clara's trembling hands lifted the photo. It was from a party. There she was, younger, in a dress she barely recognized. Beside her, smiling, was the same man who had just thrown the box away, the man she had seen on the street moments ago. Her mind raced. Memories from that night came flooding back in fragments. She had been tipsy, surrounded by strangers, laughter, and loud music. It had been a confusing night, and she never fully understood what had happened. But now, staring at the picture, something else caught her attention. His smile. It was identical to the smiles of her daughters. She glanced at the twins, who were waiting near a wall. It was undeniable. The man in the photo shared their features. The question that had haunted her for 5 years suddenly seemed to have an answer. All this time, she had never known who their father was. Now it seemed clear. Clara clutched the photo to her chest, her gaze fixed on the direction the man had disappeared. She knew he was rich, powerful, and probably didn't even remember her. But none of that mattered. For the first time in years, Clara felt something stir within her. Determination. "He has to know," she whispered. She turned to her daughters, took a deep breath, and made a decision. She was ready to do whatever it took to confront that man and give Mia and Luna the life they deserved. Sitting on the edge of the street with the box beside her, Clara watched her daughters play with scraps of cardboard, unaware of the storm brewing inside their mother. She picked up the photo again, studying every detail. The party in the background looked lavish, sparkling chandeliers, well-dressed guests. Beside her, Liam Donovan held a drink in one hand, his smile radiating confidence. "How did I not realize this before?" Clara murmured, staring at his familiar features. The same strong jawline, the same piercing eyes, the same smile she saw on her daughters every day. Her mind reeled. The photo was from 5 years ago. She remembered being invited to an extravagant party by an old acquaintance who had insisted she attend. "This could change your life," he'd said. Back then, Clara had a steady job and a more stable life. She wasn't wealthy, but she had no idea how quickly things would fall apart. That night, she decided to let loose and forget her worries. Closing her eyes, the memories returned in flashes. The music was loud, the champagne flowed freely, and Clara had let herself get swept up in the excitement. She drank more than she should have. Then she noticed Liam for the first time. He seemed untouchable, but their eyes met. Something about him, maybe his smile or his overwhelming confidence, drew her in. Later that night, amidst laughter and conversation, they ended up together. But the rest of the evening was a blur. She woke up alone the next morning, hungover and confused, with no clear memory of what had happened. Now, staring at the photo, everything clicked. 5 years ago, shortly after that party, Clara found out she was pregnant. She never knew who the father was, and people around her dismissed it as just some stranger. But now, it was all so clear. The man in the photo was Liam Donovan, and his smile was the proof she had been searching for. Clara swallowed hard. He has to know, she thought, but fear crept in. Liam seemed so far out of reach, so powerful. And she was living on the streets. How could she ever approach him? And more importantly, how would he react? The doubt consumed her. Would he believe her, or dismiss her as someone trying to take advantage of his wealth? She looked at Mia and Luna, who played and laughed, blissfully unaware of all the turmoil. The love she felt for her daughters outweighed any fear. Clara knew she couldn't give up. She took the photo and slipped it into her pocket. She carefully stored the box, knowing it might hold more evidence. Staring in the direction where she'd last seen Liam disappear, she took a deep breath. "I won't give up," she murmured, clenching her fist. With renewed determination, Clara made a decision. She would find Liam Donovan. He needed to know he had 2 daughters. The next day, Clara spotted a newspaper headline on the street. Liam was set to attend an event at a luxurious hotel in the city. When she arrived, she took a deep breath. Her fingers trembled as they gripped the photo in her pocket. With the twins by her side, she stepped into the grand hall, ignoring the judgmental stares at her worn-out appearance. As soon as she entered, she spotted Liam. He seemed untouchable, just as out of reach as she had imagined. But Clara was resolute. "Mr. Donovan," she called out, her voice steady despite her racing heart. Liam turned to her, frowning as he noticed the thin, poorly dressed woman walking toward him. Before he could react, Clara continued, "I need to talk to you. It's important." A murmur of curiosity rippled through the crowd, but Clara stood her ground. She pulled the photo from her pocket and held it out to Liam. "We met 5 years ago at a party. You might not remember, but—" She took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. "These girls," she gestured to Mia and Luna, who were watching from a distance, "are your daughters." The room fell into an awkward silence. All eyes were on Liam, who blinked slowly, trying to process what he had just heard. "Is this a joke?" he asked, his voice tinged with disbelief. "No, it's not. I know it seems impossible, but look at them. You can see it. They look like you," Clara insisted, trying to maintain control. Liam glanced briefly at the girls, but quickly returned his gaze to Clara. He let out a short, cold laugh. "You really think you can walk in here, accuse me of this, and I'll just believe you?" He stepped closer, lowering his voice, but loud enough for those nearby to hear. "I would never be with someone like you. This is ridiculous." Liam's words hit Clara like a punch to the gut. Her face burned as the murmurs around her grew louder. "Look at them closely," Clara said, her voice now trembling. "I'm not here for money. I'm here because they deserve to know who their father is." Liam crossed his arms, his gaze sweeping over her with disdain. "I have no idea who you are, and frankly, I don't care. Leave before I call security." The humiliation was overwhelming. Clara's eyes filled with tears, but she refused to cry in front of everyone. She grabbed her daughter's hands and quickly left, hearing muffled laughter and cruel remarks behind her. Liam tried to return to his conversation with the guests, but his mind was unsettled. He remembered that night, or at least flashes of it. The drinks, her face, something about it wasn't entirely erased from his memory. What bothered him more was the girls. When he looked at them, something inside him stirred. The resemblance was undeniable. As the evening wore on, he realized he couldn't shake the image of Clara and the girls. That woman could be anyone. But a liar? Something about her seemed sincere. That night, for the first time in a long time, Liam couldn't sleep. He swirled the whiskey in his glass, watching the amber liquid catch the dim light of his office. 2 days had passed since the confrontation with Clara, but her words, and the image of the girls, still haunted him. Something in their eyes, in their resemblance to him, wouldn't let him rest. What if she's telling the truth, he thought, frustrated with himself for even entertaining the idea. He didn't trust anyone, and was used to being a target for those who wanted to exploit his fortune. Yet, the doubt lingered. At a loss for what to do, Liam picked up his phone and called a trusted private investigator. "I need you to look into a woman and 2 kids, he said, providing the details he had about Clara and their brief interaction. "Find out everything about her, where she lives, where she's from, and check if she really was at one of my parties 5 years ago." On the other end of the line, the investigator agreed without hesitation. "I'll get started right away, Mr. Donovan." 2 days later, the report was on Liam's desk. He opened the envelope with steady hands, but couldn't help feeling uneasy as he saw the stack of detailed documents. There were photos of Clara and her daughters, notes about her daily routine, and to his surprise, a section tracing her family background. Clara hadn't always been homeless. According to the report, she came from a stable, middle-class family. Her parents owned a small craft store, and she had a relatively peaceful childhood. But 5 years ago, a tragedy struck. A fire destroyed her family's store, leaving her parents without income and deeply in debt. The financial and emotional strain led them to lose their home, and shortly after, they passed away, leaving Clara alone in the world. "She lost everything," Liam murmured as he read. He turned to the next page and found a record that caught his attention. Clara had mutual friends with some of his old party acquaintances. In fact, she had attended one of his most extravagant celebrations 5 years ago. Liam took a deep breath and closed the report. She had been at the party. There was no denying the connection anymore. He remembered how he had treated her during their public confrontation. The harsh words he had spoken came back to him like a punch, and for the first time, he felt guilt. Clara didn't seem to be after money. There had been something genuine in her voice when she mentioned her daughters. The photos of the twins in the report confirmed what he had already begun to suspect. Their eyes, their smiles, it was like looking at a younger version of himself. Liam got up and started pacing his office. Memories of that blurry night at the party began to form with more clarity. He remembered being drunk, laughing with friends, and seeing Clara. He vaguely recalled talking to her, being drawn to her genuine energy, something rare in the circles he frequented. How could I have forgotten? He knew what he needed to do. He couldn't undo how he had treated her, but maybe he could make it right. Liam grabbed his phone and made a quick call. "Find Clara. I want to know where she is now." As he waited for the information, Liam felt restless. This time, his approach would be different. He wasn't sure if he was ready to take on any responsibility, but he needed to talk to Clara again. Clara adjusted the makeshift blankets around Mia and Luna as the girls slept. The nights on the street were cold and lonely, and she did her best to keep them safe. But the confrontation with Liam still lingered in her mind. His cruel words echoed as a constant reminder of her humiliation. Suddenly, hurried footsteps interrupted her thoughts. She turned quickly, pulling the girls closer. And then she saw him, Liam Donovan, impeccably dressed, standing in front of her. His face showed something Clara didn't expect: regret. "Clara, I need to talk to you," he said, his voice softer than before. Clara stood up, instinctively placing herself between him and the girls. "What do you want now? Wasn't it enough to humiliate me in front of everyone?" Liam took a deep breath, clearly uncomfortable. "I was wrong. I was arrogant and cruel, and I'm truly sorry. I had no right to treat you that way." Clara crossed her arms, keeping a defensive posture. "And why should I believe you now?" Liam hesitated for a moment, then stepped closer. "Because I think you might be right. These girls, they might be my daughters. I want to make things right." Clara raised an eyebrow, surprised by his admission. "And how do you plan to do that, Liam? Do you think a few pretty words will erase everything?" He shook his head. "No, but I want to offer a way to change your situation. I want you and the girls to come off the streets. Come live with me. I have plenty of space in my home." Clara let out a short, bitter laugh. "You think you can just buy our trust? That I'll accept help from someone who called me a liar and an opportunist?" "That's not it," Liam responded quickly. "I'm not trying to buy anything. I just want to help." Clara stared at him for a long moment, fighting against the memories of his previous words. She didn't know if she could trust him, and her first instinct was to refuse. "I don't need your charity. We'll be fine on our own, like we always have." Mia and Luna, who had woken up during the conversation, looked curiously at Liam. The two girls moved closer, fascinated by the elegant man who seemed so different from everything they knew. "Are you the man from the party?" Mia asked, her eyes sparkling. Liam crouched down to their level, a gentle smile forming on his face. "Maybe I am. What are your names?" "I'm Mia, and she's Luna," the little girl said, pointing to her sister. Liam looked at them more closely, feeling a tightening in his chest. It was impossible to deny. They had his features. The girls started chatting with him, clearly captivated by his presence. Clara watched from a distance, torn between suspicion and the hope of giving her daughter something she couldn't provide herself. "You look like a prince, did you know that?" Luna said, making Liam laugh for the first time in days. Clara sighed. As much as she wanted to stand her ground, she couldn't ignore the light in her daughter's eyes. They deserved more. So much more. Liam stood again, his tone now more firm. Think about what's best for them, Clara. I'm not asking you to trust me right now. I'm just offering a chance for you all to have a safe place." Clara didn't respond immediately. The idea of living in his mansion felt absurd, but at the same time, her conscience weighed on her. Was it fair to let pride keep her from giving her daughters a better life? She crossed her arms, looking at her daughters and then back at Liam. "I need some time to think," she finally said. Liam nodded, respecting her decision. "That's fine. When you're ready, I'll be here." He left a card with her and walked away, but Clara's gaze stayed fixed on the twins, who still seemed enchanted by the man they had just met. The next morning was cold, but Clara felt the warmth of Mia and Luna's small hands clutching hers as they walked toward Liam Donovan's mansion. She still couldn't believe she'd agreed to his offer. The decision was made for her daughter's sake, but it didn't ease the knot of anxiety in her chest. "This looks like a castle, Mom," Mia exclaimed, her eyes wide as she spotted the grand mansion ahead. "Do you think we'll have a room just for us?" Luna asked. Clara forced a smile for her daughters, trying to ignore her own unease. The main gate opened smoothly, and Liam was at the door to greet them. He was wearing a simple sweater, which somehow made him seem more approachable, less distant. "Welcome," he said, motioning for them to come in. Clara hesitated for a moment, but stepped inside with the girls. The interior was even more luxurious than she'd imagined. Gleaming marble floors, enormous chandeliers, and furniture that radiated elegance. It was a stark contrast to the alleyways where she and her daughters had lived. "You can pick any room you want for the girls," Liam said with a brief but genuine smile. "And there's a room set aside for you, Clara." She nodded, unsure of what to say. The twins quickly adapted to their new surroundings. They ran through the hallways, laughed in the expansive gardens, and seemed to forget, at least for a while, the hardships they had faced. Clara, however, struggled to feel at ease. The mansion's walls felt imposing, as if they were always watching her. She spent most of her time close to the girls, making sure they knew they could still rely on her despite the luxury now surrounding them. Liam gave Clara her space, but observed her closely. He saw something in her that he hadn't noticed in anyone else before, an unshakable strength. Despite everything she'd been through, Clara was a devoted mother who prioritized her daughters' well-being above pride or pain. One evening, Liam found her in the kitchen, preparing something simple for Mia and Luna. She looked uneasy, using a space that clearly wasn't hers, but her expression was peaceful as she cared for the girls. "You don't have to do that," Liam said, leaning against the doorway. "There are staff to handle these things." Clara turned, surprised by his presence. "I know, but I prefer to do it. It's the only thing that makes me feel useful here." Liam stayed quiet for a moment, watching her hands work carefully. He'd never met anyone like her. "Clara, I want you to know, this doesn't have to be temporary. If you want to stay here, you'll have all the support you need." She looked at him, her expression guarded. "You said this was temporary, and that's how it should be. I don't want the girls to think this is permanent." "Why not?" Liam asked, genuinely curious. Clara hesitated. She didn't know how to explain that the luxury now surrounding her felt like a dream too distant for someone like her. "Because this isn't our reality," she said, turning her attention back to what she was doing. Liam wanted to say more, but decided not to push her. That night, after putting the girls to bed, Clara stepped out into the garden for some fresh air. The sky was clear, and the stars sparkled like diamonds. Liam appeared moments later, carrying 2 cups of tea. He walked up to her quietly and handed her one. "I thought you might like this." "Thank you," Clara replied hesitantly. The two sat in silence for a while, watching the sky. For the first time, Liam felt the need to say something unrelated to business or responsibilities. "Clara, I admire what you've done for your daughters. Very few people would have the strength you've shown." She looked at him, surprised. "I don't know if it's strength. I think it's just love." "Love might be the greatest strength of all," Liam said, lowering his gaze. It was a brief moment, but something shifted between them that night. A silent exchange of respect, a small step toward something neither of them expected. The days in the mansion began to take on a peculiar rhythm. Mia and Luna seemed happier than ever, running through the gardens and exploring every corner of the house. Clara, however, still held her reservations. No matter how hard she tried, she couldn't erase Liam's harsh words during their first confrontation from her memory. Here's a fun little challenge for those reading the comments. Type pizza in the comments if you've read this far. Let's keep going with the story. Even so, something about him seemed different now. Liam was more present, more attentive, and made a point to engage with the girls whenever he could. It was nearly impossible for Clara to ignore the way he smiled at Mia and Luna's laughter, or how genuinely interested he seemed in being part of their daily routines. One morning, while Clara was in the garden reading a story to her daughters, Liam appeared carrying a bucket and a small ball. "I thought we could play something," he said, motioning to the girls. "How about a treasure hunt?" Mia and Luna squealed with excitement, jumping up immediately. "Yes, let's go, Mommy," they called, tugging at Clara's hand. Clara hesitated, but her daughter's enthusiasm was contagious. She gave in and joined the game. They spent the morning hiding and searching for clues, laughing more than Clara thought possible. For the first time, she saw a lighter side of Liam, a side that seemed less imposing and more human. When they finally finished, Mia hugged Liam tightly. "You're so much fun, you know that?" she said, smiling. Liam glanced at Clara as if seeking her approval, but she averted her gaze, still hesitant to lower her defenses completely. Later, as Clara was tidying up the toys the girls had left scattered in the garden, Liam approached her again. "You know you don't have to do everything alone, right?" he said, his tone more concerned than critical. Clara looked up, surprised. "I'm used to it. That's just how it's always been." "But it doesn't have to be that way anymore," Liam replied firmly. She sighed, setting the toys aside. "Liam, I appreciate what you're doing for us. Truly. But it's still hard for me to trust." Liam nodded, understanding the weight of her words. "I know I've been a jerk, and I know there's still a lot we need to work through. But, Clara, I want you to know that my intention now is to help, not just the girls, but you too." Clara looked at him, feeling torn. On one hand, she still carried the pain of the past, but on the other, she was beginning to see Liam in a new light. "We'll see," she said, avoiding a bigger commitment. Liam didn't press further, but a small smile appeared on his face. He knew he had taken an important step. That night, as Clara tucked Maya and Luna into bed, the girls started whispering to each other. "Mommy, why doesn't Liam sleep in our room?" Luna asked innocently. Clara chuckled, surprised by the question. "Because he has his own room, sweetheart." "But he seems to like you," Maya said with a mischievous smile. Clara was momentarily speechless, but quickly shook her head. "You two have such vivid imaginations. Now go to sleep, all right?" The girls giggled softly but obeyed. As Clara watched them drift off, her thoughts wandered. No matter how much she tried to deny it, something inside her was beginning to change. Clara woke up early, the first rays of sunlight streaming through the heavy curtains of the room she and the girls shared. It was a surreal contrast to the cold streets they had lived on for so long. But even amidst the comfort, her mind was restless. Liam's words from the past days echoed in her thoughts, yet something continued to hold her back: distrust. While setting breakfast for Mia and Luna, she heard voices coming from the mansion's foyer. Clara recognized Liam's tone, but the other voice was unfamiliar. Curious, she walked toward the sound. In the foyer, a tall woman with perfectly styled hair and a dress that exuded sophistication stood facing Liam. She looked furious. "So it's true," the woman said, her tone dripping with disdain. "You really brought a beggar and her children into your home?" Clara stopped in the hallway, hidden behind the door. The words cut deep, but she couldn't bring herself to move. "Vivian, this is none of your business," Liam replied, visibly annoyed. Vivian laughed, but it was a dry, cruel sound. "None of my business?" "Liam, please. You know perfectly well that your decisions affect more than just you. Everyone's talking about it. A man like you taking them in? It's more than a little suspicious." "I don't care what people think," Liam shot back, crossing his arms. "Since when are you so noble?" Vivian mocked. "It's not like you, unless you have some ulterior motive for doing this." Liam sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I'm not going to argue with you. You don't know anything about Clara or the girls." "Clara? You're already on a first-name basis? How sweet, Liam. But don't fool yourself. She's taking advantage of you, and you're letting her." Clara felt her heart race. Vivian's words echoed in her mind, mixing with her own lingering doubts. "That's enough, Vivian," Liam said firmly. "I made my decision, and I'm not going to change it because of your opinion. Now, if you have nothing else to say, you can leave." Vivian lifted her chin, clearly offended. "I hope you know what you're doing, because this will cost you dearly, Liam." She walked off with determined steps, her heels clicking loudly down the hallway. Clara, still hidden, felt a mix of anger and shame. Was that what people thought of her? That she was just using Liam? Liam stood in the foyer for a few moments before turning around. His eyes met Clara's, and he realized she had heard everything. "You heard that?" he asked directly. "Yes," Clara replied in a low voice. Liam sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. "Don't listen to her. Vivian loves meddling in things that don't concern her." Clara crossed her arms, trying to mask the hurt in her expression. "Maybe she's right. Maybe you're risking too much by keeping us here." Liam frowned, clearly frustrated. "Don't say that. I brought you here because I wanted to help, and I don't care what others think." "That's easy for you to say," Clara retorted. "But I know how you looked at me at first. I know what you thought of me." Liam hesitated before replying. "I was wrong, and I'm trying to make up for that." Before Clara could respond, Mia and Luna came running down the hallway, interrupting the conversation. "Liam! Liam! Look what we made!" Luna said, holding up a piece of paper covered in colorful drawings. Liam crouched down, carefully taking the paper. "This is amazing. You two are such talented artists." The girls laughed and hugged him, filling the whole hallway with their joy. Clara watched the scene, feeling a tightness in her chest. As much as she tried to keep her emotional distance, it was impossible to deny the bond forming between Liam and her daughters. "You seem like a daddy, you know?" Mia said, looking up at Liam with admiration. Clara felt her cheeks flush, but Liam only laughed, clearly unsure how to respond. "I really like you girls," he said, pulling them into a hug. Clara looked away, but she couldn't stop the thought that crept into her mind. What if he really could be the father her girls never had? Later that night, while tucking Mia and Luna into bed, Luna, already sleepy, asked a question Clara wasn't prepared for. "Mom, is Liam going to be our dad?" Clara froze, caught off guard. "Why do you think that, sweetheart?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. "Because he's nice, and he likes us." Clara stroked her daughter's hair but didn't answer. When the room finally grew quiet, Clara sat on the couch, lost in thought. Vivian's harsh words still echoed in her mind, but so did Liam's actions over the past few days. He was trying. That much was clear. But could she trust that he was truly changing? Or was this just a temporary illusion? Something that could disappear as quickly as it had appeared? She sighed, staring at the ceiling. For the first time in years, she felt on the brink of a decision that could change everything. In the days that followed, Clara noticed how Liam made an effort to be part of the girls' lives. He sat with them during meals, played in the garden, and even helped with their schoolwork. Clara, however, remained cautious. Every gesture of his seemed genuine, but she still struggled with the fear that it might all be temporary. One afternoon, while Clara was folding the girls' clothes, Liam appeared in the doorway. He looked hesitant, something that didn't fit his usually confident demeanor. "Clara, do you have a moment?" he asked, his voice softer than usual. "Of course. What's going on?" she replied, setting the pile of clothes aside. Liam stepped in, stopping a few steps away from her. "I've been thinking a lot about everything. About you, the girls, and what happened in the past." Clara crossed her arms, trying to mask the tension growing in her chest. "And what have you decided?" He took a deep breath, as if carefully choosing his words. "I want you to know that I'm here for you all. Not just because of what happened that night or because they might be my daughters, but because I want to be part of your lives." Clara felt her heart race, but kept her posture firm. "It's easy to say that, Liam. Words sound nice, but they don't fix everything." "I know," he replied, stepping closer. "That's why I'm willing to prove it." Before Clara could respond, Mia and Luna burst into the room, interrupting the moment. "Mom, Liam, let's play in the yard," Luna shouted, tugging on his hand. Liam looked at Clara, silently asking for permission, and she nodded. In the yard, Clara watched from a distance as Liam played with the girls. They laughed and ran around him, their joy evident. Something inside Clara began to shift. As much as she wanted to keep her guard up, it was hard to ignore the positive impact Liam had on their daughters' lives. Later, after the girls went to their room, Clara sat on the living room couch. Liam appeared shortly after, carrying 2 cups of tea. He placed one in front of her and sat in the armchair nearby. "Thought you might want something warm," he said casually. Clara picked up the cup, nodding in thanks. The silence that followed wasn't uncomfortable. It felt as though they were both gathering the courage to say something. "Why are you doing all this, Liam?" Clara finally asked, breaking the quiet. He looked at her for a moment before answering. "Because I admire you, Clara." The response caught her off guard. "Admire?" she asked, raising an eyebrow. "Yes," he confirmed. "You've been through things that would have broken many people, but you're still here, fighting for your daughters. That's something few people would do." Clara looked away, feeling her face flush. "I just did what needed to be done." "It's more than that," Liam said, leaning forward. "You're strong, Clara, and I want to help you see that." Clara remained silent, processing his words. It was the first time anyone had said something like that to her, and it stirred feelings she didn't expect. That night, Clara had trouble sleeping. Liam's words echoed in her mind, and she couldn't stop wondering, what if he really meant it? What if he truly wanted to be part of their lives? As the stars shone outside, Clara made a decision. Maybe it was time to lower her defenses a little and let Liam prove himself. The next day, Clara found him in the office, reviewing some documents. "Liam, can we talk?" she asked, stepping in cautiously. He looked up, surprised, but nodded. "Sure." Clara approached, stopping beside the desk. "I don't know how this will end, but I think I'm willing to try trusting you. For the girls' life's sake." Liam's face lit up with a genuine smile. That's all I could ever ask for. For the first time, Clara felt that maybe they could find a path forward together. The evening began with a mix of nervousness and anticipation. Hesitant to accept Liam's invitation to the company party, Clara now stood beside him, wearing an elegant blue dress he had chosen. Every step into the luxurious hall felt like a challenge. She could feel the stares fixed on her, curious and judgmental. "You look amazing," Liam whispered, holding her hand firmly. "I hope you don't regret bringing me here." Clara replied, trying to sound confident, though her eyes betrayed her unease. "Never," he assured her with a smile that seemed to ease some of her tension. But the relief was short-lived. As they walked through the hall, Clara picked up on the malicious whispers. People murmured as they looked her up and down, as though she were an outsider in an exclusive world. Liam introduced her to a small group of colleagues, and the conversation seemed friendly until one of the men, an older executive named Howard, made a cutting remark. "So, Liam, finally decided to dedicate yourself to charity projects?" Howard said, looking directly at Clara. She felt her face flush, but stayed quiet. Liam narrowed his eyes, visibly irritated. "What are you talking about, Howard?" "Oh, come on. We all know she was, how should I say this, a person of humble beginnings." Howard chuckled, joined by a few others in the group. "You've always liked challenges, but this one is a first, even for you." Clara tried to stay composed, but her heart was pounding in her chest. Before she could respond, Liam stepped forward. "What did you just say?" he asked, his voice firm, almost threatening. Howard shrugged, feigning indifference. "I'm just joking, Liam. No need to take it so seriously. But let's be honest, she's not exactly the kind of person we'd expect to see by your side." Liam let out a short laugh, though there was no humor in it. "And who do you think you are to decide who should or shouldn't be by my side?" The group fell silent, visibly uncomfortable with Liam's tone. He continued, his voice rising slightly, drawing the attention of other guests. "Clara is stronger and more worthy than anyone here. She's been through things you couldn't even imagine, and yet she's still standing. So before you open your mouth to say something about her, take a good look at yourselves. I bet none of you would last even a day in her shoes." Clara stood quietly, trying to contain her emotions. No one had ever defended her like that before. Later, as Clara was still processing the discomfort caused by the comments, another unwelcome figure appeared. Victoria, Liam's ex-fiancée, approached with a smile laced with venom. Well, well, well. If it isn't the great Liam Donovan and his special companion, Clara immediately caught the mocking tone. "Victoria, I don't think now's the time for sarcastic remarks," Liam said, clearly irritated. Victoria ignored him and turned directly to Clara. It's amazing what some people will do to climb the social ladder, isn't it? You must be a real inspiration for stories of overcoming the odds. Clara felt anger rising, but this time refused to stay silent. Maybe I am an inspiration, Victoria. And do you know why? Because I don't need to step on others to feel important. Victoria looked visibly unsettled, but Clara didn't stop. You act like you're on some kind of pedestal, but what have you really done to deserve being here? From what I see, the only reason you're still relevant is because of your connection to Liam. It must be hard not to shine on your own. An awkward silence settled over the group watching. Victoria tried to recover her composure but couldn't find the words to respond. Liam looked at Clara with a mix of admiration and pride. I think she made her point, Victoria, he said, taking Clara's hand. Maybe you should find another group to impress. Victoria walked away, clearly defeated. When the party finally ended, Clara was exhausted. In the car, she remained silent, processing everything that had happened. Liam tried to start a conversation a few times, but she only responded with short answers. Once they got home, Clara went straight to the garden. Liam followed her, concerned. Clara, what's going on? You were incredible tonight. She turned to him, her eyes filled with emotion. Liam, this isn't going to work. He frowned, surprised. What do you mean? I don't belong in this world, Clara said, her voice trembling. You saw how they looked at me, how they talked about me. It's always going to be like that. I don't care what they think, Liam said firmly. But I do, Clara replied, tears streaming down her face. I don't want to be the person who causes you trouble, who makes you deal with stares and comments every day. Liam stepped closer, taking her hands in his. Clara, you're not a problem. You're the best thing that's ever happened to me. She tried to look away, but he gently held her face, making her meet his eyes. I'm falling in love with you, Clara, more every day. And tonight, you made me prouder than ever. Before she could respond, Liam leaned in and kissed her. The kiss was intense, as if he were trying to convey everything he felt without words. When they pulled apart, Clara looked at him, trying to process what had just happened. Liam. Don't say anything, he interrupted, smiling. Just trust me. The next morning, Clara woke before sunrise. Liam's kiss was still fresh in her memory, but along with it came the same unease. As much as she wanted to believe his words, Liam's world still felt like a place she could never truly belong. While she made herself coffee, she heard footsteps in the hallway. Liam appeared in the kitchen, his expression relaxed. Good morning, he said, leaning against the counter. Clara simply nodded, focusing on pouring the coffee. The silence between them was heavy with tension, and Liam noticed right away. Is everything okay? He asked, trying to gauge what was on her mind. She set the cup down on the table with more force than she intended, turning to face him. Liam, we need to talk. He sighed, crossing his arms. I thought we finished this conversation last night. It's not finished, Clara replied firmly. What happened at the party made one thing clear to me. No matter how much you say you don't care what others think, the people around you won't change. Liam stepped closer, frustration evident in his eyes. And why does that matter, Clara? I chose you, not them. Because I don't want to be the reason you lose their respect. I don't want you to have to fight every time someone makes a comment about me. Liam moved closer, taking her hands firmly in his. Listen, Clara. I don't care what those people think. Howard, Victoria, all of them. They're irrelevant. What matters to me is you and the girls. You're my priority now. Clara heard his words, but the weight of their differences still haunted her. And what if that's not enough? She asked, lowering her eyes. Then I'll prove that it is, Liam said with determination. Later, as Clara played in the garden with Mia and Luna, the sound of tires on gravel caught her attention. She looked toward the driveway and saw a black car pulling up. A man stepped out, and Clara immediately recognized Howard, the colleague who had made cruel remarks at the party. Clara frowned as he approached. Howard, what are you doing here? She asked, trying to stay calm. He smiled, but his tone was just as condescending as it had been at the party. Clara, right? I thought I'd stop by to clear the air. I didn't mean to offend you last night. You know how it is. Sometimes words come out wrong. Clara crossed her arms, not believing his explanation for a second. There's no need to pretend, Howard. I know exactly what you meant. "You're sharp," he replied with that same irritating smile. "I'm just saying, Liam might want to think twice before getting too involved. People like you tend to complicate things." Before Clara could respond, Liam appeared on the porch. Watching the scene, he quickly descended the steps, his face dark. "Howard, what are you doing here?" he asked, his voice icy. Howard raised his hands in mock surrender, just having a friendly chat with Clara. "If you think threatening or belittling her is friendly, then you don't know anything about me," Liam said, stepping between Clara and Howard. "Let me make this clear. If you ever speak to Clara or the girls like this again, you'll have to deal with me directly." Howard looked uncomfortable, but tried to mask it. "I didn't mean to offend anyone, Liam. I'm just thinking about what's best for everyone." "What's best for everyone is for you to stay out of my life and theirs," Liam shot back. "Now leave before I have you escorted off the property." Howard gave a forced smile before turning back to his car. "Think about it, Liam. You can still change your mind." As he drove away, Clara let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. Liam turned to her, visibly upset. "I'm sorry about that. I don't know what he was thinking coming here." Clara shook her head, still processing what had happened. "This is exactly what I was afraid of, Liam. These people won't stop." "And I won't stop defending you," he replied, stepping closer. Clara felt his determination, but it wasn't enough to erase her worries. "I don't want you to live like this, Liam. You have your reputation, your business. None of that means more to me than you and the girls," he interrupted, holding her shoulders. "Don't you see that?" She looked into his eyes, searching for any hint of hesitation but found none. Liam was resolute, and it left her without words. "This isn't easy for me," Clara admitted, her voice breaking. "I know, but we're not giving up on each other. Not now," he said, leaning in to kiss her again, as if to reinforce everything he had said. This time, Clara didn't resist. She allowed the moment to envelop her, still full of doubts, but with a spark of hope that maybe, just maybe, this could work. The days following the confrontation with Howard brought something unexpected for Clara. While she continued to wrestle with her insecurities, she couldn't deny that Liam was doing everything he could to show that he truly cared for her and the girls. One afternoon, as Clara was making a snack in the kitchen, Liam walked in with a relaxed smile, holding something behind his back. "Do you have a minute?" he asked, approaching slowly. "That depends." "What are you hiding back there?" Clara replied, suspicious but smiling. "Just a little gift," he said, revealing a perfectly bloomed red rose. Clara laughed, surprised by the simplicity of the gesture. "What's gotten into you, Liam Donovan? I didn't know you had a romantic side." "I'm learning," he replied, handing her the flower. "I just want you to know I'm willing to do whatever it takes to win you over, Clara." She stayed silent, holding the rose as her heart began to race. "You don't have to do these things, Liam. I already know how you feel. Maybe I don't have to, but I want to. I want you to know every single day how much you mean to me." Before Clara could respond, Liam leaned in and kissed her. It was a kiss that made her forget everything else around her. Later that same afternoon, Liam suggested something new. "What if we did something together as a family?" he said, as Mia and Luna played in the garden. "Like what?" Clara asked, curious. "How about a picnic? Just the four of us, somewhere special." Clara was surprised by the simple idea, but as she watched the girls running and laughing, she knew it would be perfect. A few hours later, they were sitting on the grass in a quiet area near the mansion, surrounded by trees. Liam had prepared everything: a blanket spread out, a basket filled with sandwiches, fruit and juice, and even a small radio softly playing music in the background. Mia and Luna were thrilled, running around and laughing as Liam tried to teach them how to make paper airplanes. Clara, sitting under the shade of a tree, watched the scene with a smile. "You're great with them," she said when Liam sat next to her, exhausted after chasing the girls. "They're amazing. It's impossible not to love them," he replied, grabbing a strawberry from the basket. Clara felt a lump in her throat. Liam was becoming such an important figure in Mia and Luna's lives, and it both scared and comforted her. "I think you've managed to win over more than just me," she said, motioning toward the girls. Liam laughed but quickly grew serious. "I love them so much, Clara." His words struck something deep in her, but before she could respond, Mia and Luna ran up to them. "Mom, look, Liam taught us how to make a plane," Luna said, holding up a folded piece of paper. "You're learning fast." Clara replied, laughing. "He's the best," Mia added, hugging Liam. He hugged her back, smiling at Clara over the girl's shoulders. "I think I could get used to this," he said playfully. Clara just smiled, but inside she felt her heart open a little more to him. That evening, after putting the girls to bed, Clara and Liam sat in the garden under the stars. The silence between them was comfortable, and their closeness felt natural. "I never imagined I could have something like this," Clara said, gazing up at the sky. "A family, happy moments." "You deserve all of it, Clara. More than anyone," Liam said, taking her hand. She turned to look at him, noticing the intensity in his eyes. "Sometimes it still feels like a dream," she admitted. Liam leaned in, gently touching her face. "Then I'll make sure to remind you every day that it's real." He kissed her again, but this time the kiss was slower, full of emotion. Clara felt as if the weight of her past was fading away, replaced by something she had never felt before: hope. The next day, Liam suggested another surprise. "Clara, I've been thinking, why don't we take a trip? Somewhere peaceful, just the four of us." Clara laughed, shaking her head. "You don't stop, do you?" "Not at all," he replied with a grin. "I want to give you and the girls everything I can." Clara hesitated, but when she saw Mia and Luna's excited smiles, she knew she couldn't say no. "Okay, Liam, but nothing too extravagant." He pretended to be offended. "Me? Extravagant? Never." The room filled with laughter, and Clara realized that, for the first time in a long while, she felt genuinely happy. "Let's play a little game with the readers of the comment section. Type Coca-Cola in the comments if you've read this far. Only those who made it here will get it. Now let's continue with the story. The next day, Clara was in the mansion's garden, watching Mia and Luna play with Liam. The day was peaceful, with the sun shining and a gentle breeze rustling the trees. It was hard to believe how much her life had changed in recent months. Though she still had doubts about her place in Liam's world, each day by his side seemed to strengthen the bond between them. Suddenly, Luna stopped running and looked at Liam, laughing. "Daddy, catch us!" she shouted with the spontaneity only a child could have. Clara froze when she heard the word. She saw Liam stop for a moment, surprised, before breaking into a wide, genuine smile. Mia, laughing, chimed in. "Yeah, Daddy, you're the best daddy in the world." Liam knelt down, opening his arms for the girls, who ran straight to him. He hugged them tightly, his eyes glistening with emotion. "You have no idea how much that means to me," he said, his voice full of emotion. Clara, watching the scene from afar, felt her eyes fill with tears. It was a moment she had never imagined witnessing. The girls finally had a father, someone who loved them deeply and made sure to show it every day. Later, Liam found Clara in the garden while the girls were busy drawing. He approached her, his smile still lingering. "Did you hear that?" he asked. "I did," Clara replied with a small smile. "I never thought hearing that would feel so special. They called me Daddy." "That's because you've always been their father. You just didn't realize it yet." Liam held Clara's hand, giving it a gentle squeeze. "Thank you for letting me be part of this." Clara just smiled, but inside she felt something warm growing in her heart. The days that followed were filled with increasingly intimate and loving moments between Clara, Liam, and the girls. They had dinner together every night, played in the garden, and even started a tradition of family movie nights on Saturdays. Clara began to realize that Liam's world, once so distant and intimidating, was starting to blend with hers. One evening, after the girls were tucked into bed, Liam asked Clara to meet him in the garden. When she arrived, she found the space illuminated with string lights hanging from the trees. A table was carefully set, with soft music playing in the background. "What's going on?" Clara asked, surprised. "Just a special dinner," Liam said, smiling as he guided her to the table. They talked about everything, from Clara's past to Liam's dreams for the future. The atmosphere was intimate, and Clara felt completely at ease with him. When dessert arrived, Liam stood up and took her hand, helping her to her feet as well. "Clara, you've changed my life in ways I never imagined possible. You've brought love and meaning to my life and given me something I didn't even know I needed. A family." Clara's heart raced as she listened to his words. Liam pulled out a small box from his pocket and knelt in front of her. I want to spend the rest of my life with you. Clara, will you marry me? Clara brought her hands to her face, overwhelmed with emotion. Tears streamed down her face as she nodded repeatedly. Yes, Liam, of course I will. Liam slipped the ring onto her finger and kissed her. In the distance, they heard the excited applause of Mia and Luna, who had been hiding the entire time. Months later, the wedding day finally arrived. The ceremony was held in the mansion's gardens, decorated with white flowers and delicate lights. Clara wore an elegant yet simple dress that highlighted her natural beauty. Liam, in a black suit, couldn't take his eyes off her as she walked toward him. Mia and Luna served as flower girls, carrying the rings with radiant smiles. When Clara and Liam stood face to face, he held her hands tightly. You look beautiful, he whispered. And you look perfect, Clara replied with a smile. The vows were heartfelt, leaving no guest with dry eyes. When the officiant pronounced them husband and wife, the applause was deafening. Clara and Liam kissed under the adoring gazes of Mia and Luna, who ran around them celebrating their new family. During the reception, Clara looked happier than ever. Liam pulled her onto the dance floor, where they danced under the lights, lost in their own world. Later, Clara led Liam to a quiet corner of the garden. She held his hands, a shy smile on her lips. I have something to tell you, she said. What is it? Liam asked, curious. She took a deep breath, feeling the emotion rise within her. I'm pregnant. For a moment, Liam was speechless, but then his face lit up with a smile that seemed to brighten the entire place. Clara, that's amazing, he said, pulling her into a tight embrace. We're going to have another baby. Liam lifted her off the ground in a joyful hug, both of them laughing and crying at the same time. You just made this day even more perfect, he said, his voice full of emotion. In the months that followed, Clara and Liam's happiness only grew. They became a complete family, united by a love that overcame every obstacle. The arrival of their new baby brought even more joy, and Liam made a point to show every day how much he cherished his family. The past, which once seemed like a barrier, became nothing more than a distant memory. Clara knew her life would never be perfect, but with Liam by her side, she had something much greater. True love, acceptance, and a family that meant everything to her. What do you think? Did Clara make the right choice in forgiving Liam? Share your thoughts in the comments. On a scale of 0 to 10, how would you rate this story? Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to follow all our stories, and check out more heartwarming tales by clicking here on the end screen.